35.5 billion, 6.4 billion, and 5.5 million. You ask, what are these numbers? 34.5 billion is the amount of money that major corporations avoided paying taxes since 2008. 6.4 billion is the amount of tax refunds these same companies received without paying corporate income tax. And last but not least, 5.5 million represents the amount of jobs that have been lost in the manufacturing sector alone over the last decade. And this doesn't even take into account the amount of jobs that have been lost in other professional and business services. I think it's safe to say that I have everybody's attention. 2007 is a year that we all may remember or know as a year that the recession hit the United States. However, the jobs that we lost in the manufacturing sector and other sectors have been climbing over the last decade. So it's safe to say that the recession isn't the only factor. Some may blame the president at the time, others may blame the deregulation of banks or other factors that they may feel fit to use for blame. But there's an underlying factor that some of us may not have taken into consideration. For the past decade, outsourcing has been a key factor to job losses before we even knew that it was an issue. Now that you see the severity of the situation, it is important as a society as well as a government that we understand the power and benefits of reducing outsourcing and keeping jobs in the United States. We should try to create a medium that encourages companies to stay local and understand that the company's bottom line is not the only thing to keep in mind. First, we will talk about how incentivizing U.S. companies to stop outsourcing will reduce unemployment. Then we will discuss how it can prevent unfair practices and sweatshop operations. And lastly, we will discuss how this incentive can increase the income to the United States Treasury. Hopefully at the end of my speech, you will agree that the U.S. government needs to incentivize companies to stop outsourcing. First and foremost, in the manufacturing sector alone, the United States lost over 5 million jobs in the last decade. Taking into account other factors, that number equals approximately 10 million employees. According to a study done by the Hackett Group, it found that by 2016, a total of 2.3 million jobs in the finance, IT, procurement, and HR sectors will move to offshore. Now, due to an increase in outsourcing, we are leaving millions of citizens unemployed all over the United States. By reducing outsourcing through incentives, companies will now be participating in job creation, will once again repair and stimulate the United States economy. Now, if we were to reduce outsourcing, there would be a direct impact on the local and national economies. Domestic spending would increase as a result of the unemployment rate going down and there being more money to spend. By creating jobs, by creating income, it equals more money to spend in the local economy, which will ultimately impact the gross product of the nation. Opportunities will also now become available for small businesses and manufacturing to assist big companies. By larger companies coming back to the United States, it would create an opportunity for a smaller guy to open a smaller version to help assist the bigger operation. As a result, creating more entrepreneurs, small businesses, and opportunities of that sort. In addition to increasing opportunities, we would also be increasing exports as a result of manufacturing as well as other operations, but primarily manufacturing coming back to the United States. By increasing exports, it would also decrease the amount of imports that we need to make as a result of the manufacturing being domestic. This would result in a huge new market that the U.S. has not even begun to tap into. As we all may know, the U.S. is primarily a consumer-based society, and we are not manufacturer-driven. As a result of bringing back operations from India and China, we would now be in a position to be a manufacturing society. Now, potential job creation and income creation for individuals is not the only benefit of this incentive, but employees of outsourced operations all around the world. Outsourced reduction will assist in preventing unfair labor practices and sweatshop operations. Now, many U.S. companies unknowingly, or sometimes knowingly, get involved in unfair labor scandals. A perfect example is the Apple and Foxconn scandal, which went on in 2009 and came back around in 2012. Now, 2012 being their most popular one, the issue is that Apple unknowingly, when Foxconn was operating their operation, they had to do an audit, and they changed their audits from 64 a year to 200 a year due to factors such as suicide, child labor, women labor, all these things that were done in an improper format that even equals to suicide. And the U.S. has a vested interest in these large corporations who are representatives of the U.S. themselves. These large corporations are not just businesses. They're also a representation of the United States on a whole. And as if a country, we can't see the social responsibility in reducing these aspects, we're doing something greatly wrong. Expanding upon that same social responsibility, there's also other factors such as human trafficking in addition to the unfair practices. As a country, we have a vested interest to the whole entire world to do our part to prevent human trafficking for people such as children, women, that go into some of these same unfair labor practices. Another benefit is going to be better occupational and safety policies used in manufacturing and business services. We would have more control over the type of standards that went into these facilities, such as how employees are treated, how wages are paid, what benefits they're getting. Is there things in place for pregnant women? Is there things in place for people who are hurt on the job? All these different things. There's more control, but more quality over that situation. As a country, it's great to note that by making concessions to encourage companies to stay local, that they are solving both personal and social responsibilities. However, this incentive would also benefit directly to the government. These incentives that we discussed, after all parties benefit, will result in an increase in income to the United States Treasury. By keeping operations local and making it profitable for all parties, the Treasury would see an increase in both personal and corporate income taxes. The U.S. lost $34.5 billion in potential income from corporate taxes alone, based off of a study done by a U.S. senator. By giving incentive to these companies, that number may be less than what the government gets, but overall, between the personal taxes, the increase in the economy, that number could result in a very large number for the U.S. Treasury. Also, there would be a reduction in the national debt. Just by reducing outsourcing to China for manufacturing alone, the U.S. could reduce the budget deficit by $500 billion over 6 years and simultaneously create 1 million jobs. One of the major benefits of this reduction would be, this incentive, would be the reduction of public assistance. All the people that are on public assistance would now have a way to pay their bills, to provide for their family, and have jobs. We all know that the bottom line is outsourcing is hurting America as a unit and benefiting companies' bottom line financially. Companies will not be willing to bring their operations back when it is proving more profitable to operate outside of the United States. As citizens, as well as the government, we need to take action in assisting and influencing companies to bring their operations back to U.S. soil. It is more than just money to make this decision. The social responsibility alone is enough to know that some of these actions need to be done. From the reduction of employment, prevention of unfair labor practices, and increase in income to the Treasury would would be more than enough to incentivize companies. So citizens, governments, officials, and company executives, please consider the benefits and take action to save our people as well as our country's economy. Thank you.